Jess, you ready?
Yeah, right there.
He's going to Rutgers.
Good for him.
And
And the plan.
Yeah, we got a 6:00 today, so.
Good for him. Oh my gosh, that's a big day.
Yeah.
Well, it's 6 o'clock. I can start. I have just a little computer issue here.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My computer's forcing me to restart. It looks like I'm scrolling the internet over here. I'm just trying to keep it going. So we don't have a guest speaker today. Do we have any public comment from anybody online? We don't have anybody here with us.
There's one person online.
We would be happy to hear any public comment from anyone who's joining in online. If you haven't done this before, you just need to unmute yourself. Let us know your name and where you live for the record, and feel free to share about 2 or 3 minutes of comments with council. Does anyone wish to make public comment? Not seeing any.
Hi, can you hear me at all?
Yeah, 1 second,
One
we're gonna
minute.
turn on up the volume. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Judy Army from the Wabasha County Herald. I am as much as possible. I do have a 3-year-old and a little tough, but yep, happy to be here, happy to be reporting, and I'll probably end up circling back asking folks questions. Wanted to introduce myself.
Thanks, Judy. It was nice to meet you in person. Great to have you on board, Harold. And yeah, you know how to reach Caroline and I for sure. All of us have our contacts on the city's webpage as well. Thanks so much.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Seeing nobody else online, are there any changes or additions to the agenda by staff or council?
I just had one resolution accepting funding that was added last minute under donations for accepting a grant.
Okay. Under donations.
Yep.
Okay, so if I am not, for some reason, it's just not going. I don't know why it keeps dropping me. Maybe you'll read that for us. All right, any other changes? Okay, hearing none. I don't have a presentation. I just really appreciated all the updates. It's been an amazing summer. Seems like even busier than usual. I know summer's always crazy for the city, but lots accomplished, so much to be grateful for. Thankful for all of our seasonal employees that make things go round, and just seemed like a really fast, wonderful, work-filled, fun-filled summer. So thank you to everybody. And I know this time when switches into school year is also when there's a lot of work that goes into the budget process. So we appreciate that. It's a huge lift, but we're already in a good spot. So thank you. Committee reports. Did utilities meet today?
We did, agenda item 10.3, we'll give an update. That's the only thing to address.
Okay, Port Authority.
Port Authority met, but just under new business, we approved the submittal for the state EIS for the barge terminal project. In addition to that, we also approved the draft for the federal submittal for some environmental assessment for the federal funds. There's a couple items on the agenda with respect to some of the actions we took. One was the facade program, and I think that was the availability and making available those couple of properties for sale as well. Otherwise, that's about it.
All right. No, Tony, no, Riley, do you know if there's any perks updates that we should? They didn't have. Okay, all right. And Ryan, anything from ambulance?
Just for August, we finished with 75 calls, from five, up 145 over last year. We're at 597 for the year. We finished out busy. We had 9 calls the last 2 days of August. And then we have an EMR class that we're gonna be starting in the middle of October. So we had a lot of interest for it, so hopefully, we're gonna have a full class for that, so.
You have to be 18 to do the course.
There's no limit for, if you now, because they're starting to do, school programs, like high school, where you can get credit through the high school and also take your EMT. So the state of Minnesota doesn't have those requirements anymore.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Planning commission.
We discussed the draft of the Wabasha County cannabis ordinance, provide some comments to that. That will probably be coming to city council, I'm guessing, next month or the month after. So, nothing too major.
All right. All right, and administrator report. Lots reported already.
Okay, yes. Just to. Okay,
Fun, isn't
I think,
it? We rely so much.
I think Judy can hear us, so I'm not gonna worry about the screens. We're doing the final push on the street, downtown street project. So I think everyone's been just watching the progress. They're finishing up Walnut Street, Pembroke, Allegheny. And of course, Bridge, the bump outs are being added. But overall, again, these are all just to improve the walkability and wheelchair accessibility for downtown. I've been working on a $2 million grant for the Highway 60 realignment. And we just secured $5,000, which you'll be accepting to help pay for staff time. Tyler and I have both done a lot of reaching out to businesses, so we'll just be paying Bolton and Meg to write the crash reports and provide information to MnDOT. And then I've submitted requirements to access state MnDOT funding. And then we're going to be looking at a third winter haul, which I've mentioned before. Just want to mention the pool season. We had over 200 passes and we offered 4 swimming lessons with multiple levels offered and weekly over 50 people doing aerobics. And then Ryan, you can add in anything I missed, but he and I had a good township meeting. Ryan did most of the talking at that meeting. A lot of good feedback on the importance of the services. All the townships attended, but the city of Kellogg. All the towns that were, and Highland. All the towns that were already fully participating will continue to do so. And they also voted more or less on a 20% increase for their next contract. So they're on year 3 of their contract. And the challenges remain Greenfield Township. They sent 3 people. So they came and got very informed. But they said as of the last supervisor meeting that they had, they came up with the idea of us sending out a fundraising letter to the townships because they were nervous again about raising their levy. We had a good discussion where the other townships were able to share their experience about raising their levy 9 to 10%, and we're able to share. They really got not a lot of negative feedback. And so that's kind of a question mark. And then Kellogg, our request was 14,000 and they plan to continue to contribute 2,500. So Ryan, anything I missed? It was helpful having the other townships who are paying in, speaking in support. Yeah.
So the one thing that was interesting at the end of the meeting, I floated the idea not knowing how it all worked about the taxing district. And it became very evident for one of the individual townships that, hey, if we go this route, we're going to have to be able to fund everything, all the capital improvement projects, and then we won't, because they wanted to be able to show what was going on in the tax document. And I said, well, one way to do that is to get the special taxing district. And then there was some conversations, and then one of them finally caught on and said, well, if we go this route, then all the townships are going to be on the hook for all of the expenses. And so they said, maybe it's best that we just all pay our full amounts. So I'm hoping that we see changes next year after. That was kind of a moment where I think
A
they,
little clarity.
yeah,
Then, one thing is why further digest it is like, we have an emergency response services, we can't be running a donation campaign. I explained like the athletic field was a one-time thing. But to say that's how we're gonna fund Greenfield Township, just sending out letters, that's a ton of work for us. Tracking it, you know, so that, I think other townships, that rang a little hollow for them because they're contributing. So I think, as a next step, I'm hoping to follow up with the township clerk, see if he needs another meeting and kind of where they're at, so, yeah. But, it was a long night, we met for 2 hours. And I think the most important thing is everyone walked away with a good understanding. There is one township that said, I'm gonna start getting questions from my township board if not everyone is participating by the time the next contract rolls around, so. Yeah,
Good. All right, thanks for that. Did you have anything further? All right. So we have a consent agenda, which includes the approval of reception center road barricade purchase, the approval of 2025 Wabasha County Road Maintenance Agreement, Transportation Economic Development Program Resolution. For deed, excuse me, right? Approve the pay application for the fire department expansion, our city council minutes from both our regular 8/6 meeting and our special meeting on August 22nd. The September warrants, fire hall edition pay app number 1 and the downtown project pay app. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Second.
Do we have a motion from Tim, second from Gina? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Both same sign. All right, and now our, we have, the opportunity to approve our preliminary budget levy for 2025 and the 2024 capital improvement projects. And we'll call for a public hearing at this time. Do you want to say anything about the budget before we call a public hearing?
Tyler's gonna do the comments.
Great. Thanks, Tyler.
A few comments on the preliminary levy that's on the agenda tonight. At the budget workshop on August 22nd, we presented a budget with an 11.5% levy increase. Tonight's version is a 9.4% levy increase. Based on the feedback at the budget workshop, we took the non-union staff and moved them from the 9-step back to the 11-step pay system, and we increased the Port Authority staff contribution from 15,000 to 43,000. Based on the work that Carolina and I are doing with the Port Authority. We also talked about potentially asking Port Authority to make the Chamber Main Street HPC contributions, though they're not in this budget yet, just because Port hasn't met since that budget workshop, so we'll present that to them in September and possibly make that change later. The ambulance full-time FTE is still in the budget. Just a reminder on the budget process, once the preliminary levy is set, we can lower it, if not increase it. Preliminary levy must be approved by September 30th, and then we'll continue making changes until approving the final levy on December 3rd. So, any questions or comments on that?
I heard consensus, this is not a big thing, but I just think it's worth noting so it doesn't get lost. I heard consensus that HPC's budget really belongs in the city budget, because I don't know what it would have to do with Port specifically.
Oh, that's a good
It's like one
point.
commission
Yes.
paying for another commission. It's
Yeah.
not.
So I think we're gonna just take Chamber and Main Street.
And propose that they.
Those are together, they're about 21,000, but leave HPC, which is the Heritage Preservation Commission, and Summer Rec. Did anyone want us to email Summer Rec? Yeah, I think Brian, you suggested that hasn't been done, of emailing Summer Rec and seeing, do they need our funding? Can we lower it, basically?
I messaged
Okay,
someone on the baseball board and didn't hear back, and I asked for contact information for softball. But I haven't heard anything back yet, so
okay,
just specifically asking how solvent they are and if they really need the money or if it's just a helpful thing at this point, so.
Tyler, do you mind? I know you've been frequently in touch with them and not so much softball, but we'll try to follow up on and say.
Okay, I'll let you know if I hear
We're
anything.
exploring cuts this year and what would a $2,000 cut or 5,000? Okay.
Sounds good. Then we have a list of the 2025 capital improvement projects as well, so. There's details in the packet with any questions or comments on those as well. The total is $244,090 for the 2025 projects.
Why aren't we sharing the health insurance increases with the employees? Shouldn't it, I mean, that's what happens in the real world. Health insurance goes up, everybody, both parties pay.
Sometimes.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know, but the real world is complex, so it's sometimes that happens, sometimes.
I think what we could do, if there's consensus on seeing how that impacts the budget, we were gonna wait till we actually got the cost increases. Cause for now, I'm kind of basing it on a hypothetical. And so once we will know that, hopefully in November, we've gotta know it before December, hopefully. We can hopefully get it on the November agenda and show what that would look like. Are you suggesting like a 50-50 split of the cost increase? Yeah, so it's. I don't know, I felt like it was a bit minuscule in terms of a levy increase, just because people are coming in on and off our healthcare plans. But we can definitely give you guys that information.
Look at it.
Yeah. Mhm. So that's why it's not in here, it's just, we didn't have the final numbers, so it'd be all hypothetical.
It's, and really until your open enrollment period closes, you don't really.
And Wendy, we don't do open enrollment till December? November, okay, so then once we have.
To get the numbers in October.
We'll get rates by the end of October, open enrollment will hit November.
And then do we just tell people you may see a premium increase? We're not sure. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay, anything further on the budget, any questions? So now under general business 2, we have the ability to approve utilization of TIF funds to create a facade improvement program.
Now we need to.
I'm sorry, yes, we have to actually approve our budget. Feels like we talked about this for so long, but we actually have to approve it.
So I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Ron. Second by Dean. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great, and now we can talk about the TIF funds, that'll be remaining, pretty clear, everything. The shares and this,
So-
we've been discussed it.
Yes, so just to be clear, we are closing out a TIF this year. And has a balance of funds that can just, thanks Ryan, that we had been asked by the Port Authority to explore how we could fund a facade improvement program. And there is some TIF that's closing out, but it's technically the city of Wabasha's funds. So like I described in the summary, with the denial of this request, that those approximately $15,000 at the end of the year would just go back into the general fund to build up the reserves. I think there's also mentioned you could do it for a one-time anything purchased. But the port is requesting to launch a small grant program for downtown businesses to support exterior improvements or new signage, basically a business development program. It is part of the council's strategic plan to support businesses, so I know staff, we were in favor of this one-time funding it, and then once it's gonna be $2,500 for non-historic buildings and $5,000 for historic, and once the funds are expended, the program would end unless the port chose to seed the program in the future with other available funds.
And it's matching grant. Matching.
Yeah, 50-50 match.
What tip is closing?
The Pepin tip, Pepin manufacturing tip,
Business.
yeah.
Seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah. Years already.
That's amazing.
Well, I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to allow the funds from the TIF to be used to create a facade improvement for them in a second.
I'll do the second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd say keep the money if we can keep it and use it for something else. That's where I'm at.
I agree, I think it should just be put back in the city reserves and we got a lot of projects coming up.
There was equal debate, to be honest, and open, there was equal debate on the Port Authority about asking for the money or if it should just go back to the general fund. I think the general consensus of the majority of the group felt like we could just continue to lean forward and try to present these programs as we go, and a facade improvement program, certainly downtown or in our downtown district, after all the roadwork and everything, would be a kind of a nice thing. To help freshen up some of those buildings and incentivizes people to put a little money up front. So that's where we were at with it.
Yeah, I'll support it for those reasons. I know a lot of people have really expressed great appreciation for the grant programs that Carolyn and Tyler have administrated. It's been a really rough time for all of our businesses, and it's not limited to downtown, right? This would be any business in the city. When you discuss the amounts for historic buildings versus non-historic buildings, my only question is how we're gonna call that. Is it by virtue of the Secretary of Interior's, registry? Because there are old buildings that are not in our district that would be equally qualifying for a larger expense. That's the only thing I thought, I'd hate to be right outside that district, need that a larger amount and feel somehow penalized for not being listed on the historic register, which you had no control over. So that's my only question about administering. I'm sure we can figure something out, but
Yeah.
it might be easier just to say buildings built at, prior to a certain year, just so that you're not, an old building anywhere in our city is likely to need more repair than a new one, so.
And yeah, I think it came out of just a lot of the downtown projects and then COVID and the disruption and it was felt that, a relatively small amount of money for the city could have a big impact on businesses with a 50-50 match and investing in their businesses.
So I'll modify it if you want to throw a year over it.
Yeah, there is a year, there's another law that allows for some tax credit involvement. I feel like it's 1935 or something like that.
I'll modify it to 1935.
Okay, it's kind of arbitrary, but I'm just more thinking. Yeah, I know there are buildings right about, in our downtown district, but they're not gonna be deemed historic.
Or I can modify it to whatever that was.
Yeah,
Whatever that number
it's
is.
kind of arbitrary, because that one too is just, they just picked a time. I think it was maybe at that point. Do you remember that change to buildings? It was like if they were 50 years old after 1935. Anyway, 1935, whatever we think is, if there's
Whatever you think.
yeah, I'm not thinking a reasonable year. Even 1950 is a long time ago. Do we have any buildings in the district that would be, or in our downtown more appropriately, that you think would be built after 1950? Yeah. No,
So I'll modify it to 1950. Or
do you have a second for that?
Yeah,
So they would
yeah, I'll
qualify
let it,
for larger.
no problem.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No,
Okay, so it's 3. And I did, maybe we
4 to 3.
4 to 3, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay, okay, all right. Thank you. I think it's great to try it. I think Port will probably, if it's successful, want to take it over, but it's nice when we have this little one-time amount to do some of what we say we want to do. All right, and now we have grant shoots request for a legal agreement to privatize 220 feet of water.
Sorry, typo, yeah.
That's right, within that right of way portion publicly owned. This is a long one. I don't have the ability to kind of narrate through this one.
Yeah,
Obviously, we've got
I was
a lot
gonna
of
let
feedback.
Brian
Brian.
narrate it.
Oh, it's
and
Brian.
then- No, this
Oh, it's
Brian.
Brian, okay, great. Sure, because it just hit utilities, right?
I'll summarize. So we have a private residence within Greenfield Township up by Coffee Mill. Terrible water. Building a well and maintaining it's gonna be a expensive endeavor, and the water itself is just bad all around. So there was a residence next door. I don't know, was it 10 years ago or more? Somehow, some way, the city allowed them to hook up to city water with a private line, even though they weren't residents of the city. So shoots have come to us asking if we would be willing to do the same for them. And so they've been to 2 utility meetings, staffs had multiple discussions, city engineer, city attorney. And I think what we've arrived at is in order to do or entertain this, and especially since legal is highly suggesting this, is that we annex the property into the city. Really, to me, that's the only incentive for us doing this besides being, helping somebody out. They do also own property in the city, so they are residents of the city, they pay city taxes, just not on this property. So I think that holds a little bit of weight rather than just someone completely outside the city. But the city attorney's insisting, just for, I don't want to say liability, but responsibility, that we want them in the city limits to be able to, and we don't want to make it a habit of providing water and city services to to properties that aren't in the city. And, so what we're looking at right now, what we left it with them is, would you be willing to annex your entire property into the city? So today they asked us, what does that look like? And questions came up that we couldn't answer on the spot. So we're kind of investigating that to see what's all involved. They're curious what their taxes will be, which we all are guessing will be considerably more. And so once we have that information, we're gonna revisit it and just see, first of all, do they wanna even try to move forward with it? And then because there would have to be a legal agreement, because the way this would work is the city would have 0 financial responsibility for installing, maintaining, because we don't want it to cost us any money. So they would have to essentially pay for everything, even future maintenance on this solitary line that's going to their property. So legal is gonna be involved. And because it's a legal agreement and because there's annexation involved, it'll come to council. So we can take a look at it and decide at that point if they're willing to do this, if we want to move forward and do it, so.
And at the utility meeting, they had questions on zoning. Would we continue to be able to have our chickens and our sheep on the farm if we annex into the city? So Wendy and Christie will look into that. We'll get them those answers. They're gonna figure out what their city taxes would be and then make a decision. At the utility commission, they were kind of pushing back against having to annex in due to their neighbors. But again, I think Brian and Mike made some compelling arguments about why that's necessary for a multitude of reasons. And so then the utility commission said, yeah, their recommendation would be annexation of the full property versus a proposal of just the city owned right away.
And do utilities have any concerns about Brian's kind of functional concern about the dead end?
I think we need to have more talk on that, but if the annexation thing falls through, we don't think there's any reason to really put a lot of time into that until we know we're gonna move forward, so.
But on the water quality issue, they decided that the legal agreement would need to state, we're not responsible for funny taste or smell of your water after all this, but whether or not that continues to protect us, there is the question of, could there be future responsibility on our part if the water doesn't turn out as anticipated with the long dead end line? So.
Go ahead, Dean.
If we annex this, would we be required by statute or something?
Yeah,
We put on fire hydrants?
I don't know. That's probably another question we would need to explore.
I was just curious if we can we?
I mean, there's
The state
plenty
wants
of
us to
properties.
say it's not our problem. I mean, if it's annexed and it's in our, it's our service in our city limits. Does statute allow us to just say it's not our problem in the future? I mean, I don't know, that feels like a future owner of that property might take issue with that.
Yes, that was Mike Clarity's point.
Yeah.
Is that we can say we're absolved of all responsibility in the future, but we really aren't. So, yeah.
I think if the utility supervisor, the city engineer and the attorney don't recommend this, we should not do it. I mean, they all have very valid legal and engineering reasons why this is not a good idea. I don't think
even
we
if
should,
it's possible to annex it. That's not really to me, the annexation is totally secondary. That's like how you achieve it if you think it's a good idea. But I'm not getting the impression that our professional staff think it's a good idea.
They requested that we table it, so I think in fairness to them, because I said you didn't need to come to the meeting, we table it, but I can say the initial feedback from council is. Not to approve it based on even annexation aside, based on the other comments in here.
Okay.
So is everyone comfortable with that?
That's how I.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a learning experience for us. My other question would be, well, then what does that mean for the property adjacent that has the same service accommodation?
You know,
It's kind of a weird.
what Brian and Mike said is, that should have never happened. We didn't set a precedent. A bad precedent was maybe set.
Mhm.
But just because you did it once, you don't perpetuate a bad idea. So that was their feelings.
Okay, all right, so we're all informed on that for the moment. Okay.
And motion to table the.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the table, sorry.
Thank you, Tim. Second by Jeff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and now, looking at, giving Port Authority authorization to list, some city-owned lots. They're right over here, adjacent to, not quite adjacent to, but on the same block as Cannon Park and then Cannon Park itself.
So Tony is meeting with the VFW today, and hopefully he'll remember to ask them how they feel about potentially moving the cannon. So that's on, I'll ask him about that tomorrow. And then this one looks somewhat promising, but I'm not a builder. So I don't know if anyone can provide, I just thought that the Port Authority could maybe engage a couple builders to see, hey, is this enough? Can we envision something happening there? And so I just put in my comments that, if it's a challenging lot to build on and we want the tax base, we may still want to consider just selling them for $1. But any comments about giving this to Port to try to list them for sale?
I was at Port, and my memory is not always correct, but it felt like there was more thoughtful consideration of parcel A than Cannon Park. Cannon Park kind of came up like, oh, also Cannon Park. I might be misremembering that, but I don't remember how.
That's kind of right. I mean, we started with A.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, could we do something with the other one?
Right, so A makes a lot of sense to me because it feels like the neighborhood would not be altered in terms of sort of the feeling. Replacing a park, which initially, I know that Cannon Park is underutilized, but it's underutilized because we don't give people anything to do there. I don't even know if there's a bench in Cannon Park. So if Cannon Park were better programmed, it would probably get more use. So it is underutilized, but it's not because residents don't know what to do with it. There's nothing to do there. It does have a ton of shade trees, and on that sunny stretch of road, we're taking land across the street and dedicating trees there. It seems sort of, I didn't really remember that until I started looking at it after that conversation. It seems like it would alter the current feeling of that neighborhood to remove all those shade trees. You're then assuming that perhaps the homeowners will put back shade trees, but we don't know that. And with a small lot, they're not left with a whole lot of room. I didn't look at what power lines are like there, whether they would even have opportunity to put shade trees back. Not against moving the cannon because, I think it just sort of landed there because it needed a spot. If there's a better place for it, but it is a prominent place to view that cannon for people who are interested in that. But if the VFW is comfortable with it being moved somewhere, I'm sure HPC can help kind of identify what the history on that is. It's pretty much documented why the cannon is even here. So parcel A makes a lot of sense to me. Parcel C kind of feels like, ooh, that could really unnecessarily concern people that we are just sort of like desperately looking for parcels to make available for very inexpensive.
I think some of the feedback was, it felt like, yeah, I agree. It doesn't cost anything to put shade trees, but it was also identified in the master plan for Parks and Rec as on an underutilized park. And in terms of, and then the thought that I don't think it was vetted very well, as you remember that process, was to kind of decommission this park in favor of investing
But that
Did it go that far? Did we talk about that decommission?
Where did we talk about that?
I don't remember that.
It's just a recommendation in the Parks. and Parks.
My opinion is A is fine, but it just seems like we're looking for spots to buy and sell.
Yeah.
That's my impression when I first saw this, but
Okay.
I think A.
Kind of are, yeah, I mean, definitely.
I was
You really
looking at the
are.
west side and do that, I mean, if that's the case, then
We are.
Yeah.
well,
We're looking everywhere.
I know that,
Yeah.
but this just feels like we're piecemealing every little thing we own.
So what we're trying to do is,
Things that are usable.
yeah, these are infill lots and, it helps us expand the tax base, it helps us expand, those entry level homes. These aren't gonna be big lots, this is not gonna be big homes.
I mean, they're both about a half acre. That's not a little
That's
lot,
not a little lot.
city lot at all.
So I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, with
Yeah.
parcel C, with the cannon, and we talked about that, I mean, if it's even a doable deal, to move it or not, but is it something that council is willing to let the port pursue and see if we can make that happen? Parcel A is kind of a no-brainer. It's just sitting there.
Is that kind of something we can move down to Veterans Park right across from?
We talked about that.
It was in Schmidt Park originally.
So there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
If it can be moved.
And it's in bad condition.
I think there might be negative feedback in the neighborhood based on Tyler's evaluation.
Yeah, and I mean, I would, if the city was trying to sell a lot that was a park next to my house, I would not like that either. I mean, it may be underutilized, but it's a beautiful space, I mean, it functions as a green space.
I think at some point in time, that actually got named Woodley Park. And we were supposed to take like,
Well, get down
Woodley
there.
family was supposed to take care of it, or I don't know.
Get some
Because
swings
my-
in there. Get some swings in there.
My grandparents were kitty corner on Milligan and, you know, we go play there all the time and. I don't know, I think if we can get the cannon into Vets Park, I think that'd be a great addition to it and. I mean, it would be a nice residential place, so my emotional heartstrings aren't totally attached to that spot, so. I would never wanna get rid of the cannon, but
Right, yeah.
I think,
Wendy had her hand.
Oh, Wendy, I'm sorry.
I was just checking setbacks, so the one in the upper left corner,
A,
is that A?
Yeah.
Okay, that must be a Milligan frontage,
Mhm.
which would be nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
5 feet. 5 feet on the side is just tight. But I know that's what we have, it's just,
So then the frontage, sorry, can you scroll so I can see?
it'll be busy.
The frontage for
C, yeah,
C would be on Eighth, okay. All right, so that's all right.
They'll have two frontages aside, unless that here's,
You could request people to not tear down the trees, but
I don't think that's
Yeah.
feasible. All right, so,
So this continues to be
Yeah.
the efforts of the Housing Committee, the Watch Group. They have done a pretty broad analysis of the city and continue to bring these parcels
and
to our attention and
I think it was actually person who's not here, it was Tony Johnson that raised this plot to me and staff.
yeah, I didn't even realize. the city property
Because
there.
he's mowing the lawn all the time and kind of wondering about that. And then while we were over there, we decided, well, we kind of assumed this might be off the table, but we thought, let's survey it at least and evaluate it. Since we're gonna be evaluating this one. So, why don't, I could propose the following, we could send A to, Port. And then I'll get you feedback on whether or not we can even, the cost of moving the cannon, because I think we determine if the costs to do this exceed potential tax base, it's probably not worth it.
gonna build a base for the can and all that kind of stuff, so.
yeah. But Tony was looking for some kind of piece for Vetch Park, you know, he was working on helicopters
Yeah.
or something to put there, so.
Let's be
It'd be a nice piece, I mean, it's got wheels, we can just throw a tow rope on it, roll it down there.
Is anybody comfortable making a motion to that effect, to Caroline's suggestion that, you authorize Port to move forward on
So
A?
Second.
First by Dean, second by Brian. Any further discussion?
And just not to lose sight of it, let's, I'll bring back when I have more info.
Okay.
See, sorry.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, and now we have, our resolution on our collective bargaining, for our law enforcement labor services and police sergeant.
Okay, so we had discussed this in a closed session and this is the final agreement. The final wages are a market adjustment in year 1, and then year 2 is a 4% general wage increase. Year 3 is another 4% general wage increase. Getting there on the market wage, I did consult with David Drown Associates. And then we're looking at an adjustment for the exempt police sergeant who does a number of patrol shifts throughout the year to reduce overtime and cover sick and vacation for officers. We talked about the budget impact to be 68,000. And our closed session council requested that the uniform allowance continue to be reimbursement only. So this continues to be in a situation where they'll turn in receipts to Joe, and then they approve those reimbursements. They did request adding and personal items like things other, shoes. So we did add that, and then again, that'll be in Joe's hands to decide if someone's sneaking something in there.
Work shoes.
And then there is also a cost increase due to the addition of Juneteenth. So now we're at 13 holidays. So if anyone wants to revisit getting rid of Columbus Day, we know, but we're pretty much locked in to 13 holidays for the next 3 years. So that is all.
We also have the clause that if the 3rd year we have you can explain it.
Yeah, so we may be talking about this in 2 years. There's a clause that if the market changes significantly enough, they have an ability to open up negotiations again. So they initially came to the table desiring a 1-year contract or just a 2-year contract, and this was a compromise.
Okay, so. All right, thank you, Brian and Jeff, for helping work that out. Do we have a motion to accept the agreement?
I'll move.
First by Jean, second. Second by John. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And can I lean on you to read the donations?
Yeah. Okay, donations, short list tonight, for the library, $50 in memory of Beth Haggard by Kenneth and Karen Hanna, and a $500 anonymous donation. Thank you for those.
And then Carolyn has one to add.
Yeah, so
The different resolution. The different resolution.
Yes,
Okay, sorry about
yeah.
that. All right, do we have a motion to approve the donation?
Second.
That was quick. I heard Tim first and Brian second. I actually heard you both at the same time. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And separately this.
oh, it didn't attach. Huh, that's weird. Okay, well anyways, it's a resolution accepting $5,000 grant from the League of Minnesota Cities, and in that process, we haven't necessarily been following up on all the grants, and we learned from the league it's a best practice, so we're gonna try to add in resolutions when we get the grant. Typically, you're approving it before we apply, so it's just accepting $5,000. It'll go to reimburse Bolton and Mank, and if we underspend it, I'm hoping to just put it towards next time that we're engaging Bolton and Mank services for the Highway 60 reroute
Sounds
project.
good. Yeah, move to accept. Thank you, John.
Second.
We have a second by Jeff. Any further discussion? No questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, any other announcements? It's just beautiful out there. So we don't need
I
to.
move to adjourn.
Thank you, Tim.
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Happy September.